High in the rugged peaks of Dagestan, where the air is thin and the winters bite deep, there is a village called Sumada. It was here, in 1988, that a boy named Khabib was born. Not in a hospital, but in a simple home where the floors were cold and the walls were lined with the echoes of war and resilience. His father, Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, was a decorated Soviet combat sambo champion who had survived the brutal trenches of the Soviet-Afghan War. To him, fighting wasn't just a sport, it was survival. By the time Khabib could walk, he was already wrestling. Not with toys, but with older boys, with goats, even with a bear cub. A now iconic image that would later define his myth. His father's training was relentless, running up mountains at dawn, sparring on frozen ground, drilling techniques until his fingers bled. There was no room for weakness. If you stop when you're tired, Abdulmanap would say, you will never be strong. Khabib's childhood was not like others. While boys in other parts of the world played video games, he was learning to break arms in sambo. By 12, he was competing against grown men. By 17, he was undefeated in regional combat sports. But Dagestan was a place of limited opportunities, and the world beyond the mountains seemed impossibly far. Then, in 2008, everything changed. His father told him, if you want to be the best, you must go where the best are. With nothing but a bag of clothes and $50, Khabib left for the city of Makhachkala to train full-time. He slept on gym floors, ate whatever was offered, and fought in backroom tournaments for pocket change. His record grew, 16-0, then 20-0, all finishes. The whispers began, there's a Dagestani who cannot be beaten. In 2011, the UFC came calling. Khabib's debut was against Kamal Shaloris, a seasoned veteran. The oddsmakers doubted the unknown wrestler from Dagestan. They wouldn't make that mistake again. Khabib mauled Shaloris, dragging him to the ground and battering him until the referee pulled him off. What followed was a reign of dominance never before seen in MMA. Fight after fight, Khabib did the same thing. He took his opponents down, pinned them like a wolf with its prey, and broke them. Against Rafael dos Anjos, he turned a top 5 lightweight into a grappling dummy. Against Michael Johnson, he talked to the UFC president mid-fight while pounding his foe. Against Edson Barboza, he turned one of the most dangerous strikers into a helpless victim of ground and pound. But it was Conor McGregor, the sport's biggest star, who would define Khabib's legacy. Khabib Nurmagomedov's clash with Conor McGregor at UFC 229 in October 2018 was more than a fight. It was a cultural collision that became the most watched MMA event in history. Fueled by McGregor's months of personal taunts about Khabib's family, religion, and Dagestani heritage, the bout crackled with unprecedented tension from the moment Khabib marched forward through McGregor's strikes to take him down in the first round. While McGregor showed moments of striking brilliance, Khabib's relentless pressure and ground control dominated much of the fight, culminating in a fourth-round neck crank that forced the Irish superstar to tap. The aftermath became instantly legendary as Khabib vaulted the cage to attack McGregor's corner, sparking a wild brawl that saw both fighters suspended. This fight transcended sport, becoming a global talking point about respect, rivalry, and the raw emotion of combat. Khabib's dominant victory over MMA's biggest star cemented his legacy while exposing the limits of McGregor's ground game, forever changing how the world viewed both fighters. The event's 2.4 million pay-per-view buys stood as a record for years, proving this was more than a championship bout. It was the defining grudge match of MMA's modern era. After McGregor, Khabib had one last mountain to climb: Dustin Poirier, a man who had earned his shot the hard way. The fight was brutal, but the outcome was the same. Khabib took him down, wore him out, and choked him unconscious. Khabib Nurmagomedov's final fight against Justin Gaethje at UFC 254 in October 2020 was a masterclass in emotional resilience and technical dominance under extraordinary circumstances. Coming into the bout just months after the tragic passing of his father and lifelong coach Abdulmanap, Khabib carried not only the weight of his undefeated record, but also the grief of a shattered heart. Gaethje, the interim champion known for his devastating leg kicks and wrestling pedigree, posed Khabib's most dangerous stylistic challenge yet. Yet in perhaps his most brilliant performance, Khabib neutralized Gaethje's strengths with surgical precision, absorbing the American's powerful strikes before systematically dismantling him on the ground. The climax came in the second round when Khabib locked in a triangle choke so technically perfect that Gaethje, an elite grappler himself, had no choice but to tap. What followed was one of MMA's most poignant moments as an emotionally overwhelmed Khabib collapsed to the canvas in tears, later announcing his retirement in honor of his mother's wish and his late father's legacy. This victory wasn't just another title defense, it was the perfect closing chapter to the greatest undefeated career in MMA history, showcasing Khabib's otherworldly skills and unshakable heart when it mattered most. Then, in the Octagon, Khabib did something unexpected. He knelt and cried. His father, who had been his coach, his mentor, his everything, had passed away months earlier due to COVID-19 complications. With tears in his eyes, Khabib announced his retirement. "I promised my mother this would be my last fight. Without my father, I cannot continue." At 29-0, the greatest lightweight in history walked away, unbeaten, untouchable. Today, Khabib trains the next generation of Dagestani fighters, passing on his father's lessons. His name is whispered in gyms from Brazil to Japan, not just as a fighter, but as a symbol of what discipline, faith, and heart can achieve. In the mountains of Dagestan, where the rivers run cold and the eagles soar high, they still tell stories of the boy who wrestled bears and became king. And they say one day, another will come, but there will never be another Khabib.